Welcome to another episode of Crosstalk. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes. Now, this particular program that you are viewing, what we try to do with it, first and foremost, it's something that we inform the folks of the two communities that we serve, both Whitman and Hanson. And we use it as a vehicle to talk about a lot of different things, whether it's issues in the two communities, maybe an upcoming event, maybe it might be an election in one of the towns, town meeting, you name it, we utilize it for an informational vehicle. But this year, as folks may or may not know, is and it's an election year, not only on the presidential side of things, but also there are some local races. Joining me today is a gentleman who is running for Plymouth County Sheriff. He's a Democrat. His name is Scott Vecchi. He's been here before. You've seen him before, Scott. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I know you've been here in the past for other reasons. You might have been here for this. Have you been here? I
was on Crosstalk. It was a couple of years ago.
Couple of years ago.
Yep.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It goes by quick.
What have you been up to since the last time we talked? We talked with you. Just on the personal side of things, how are things going?
Oh, excellent. Busy. I built a new house. That takes a little while to unfold. So busy at work, running around, running my business down in Plymouth. So we got plenty on the plate in addition to the current race for Plymouth County Sheriff. Right.
Well, we'll definitely delve into that. And you are a busy guy between owning a business. You're somebody who works with local police on the South Shore. You work for the Plymouth Police Department?
I'm a sergeant with the Plymouth Police Department.
And I think you're an attorney. You wear a lot of hats.
I am an attorney, but I'm an attorney like people who own golf clubs. Just because you have them doesn't mean that you use them all the time. I went to law school. I passed the bar on the first shot, but I don't actively practice law. And the reason is because everything overlaps, and there's a lot of conflicting issues. Even if you practice, family law or something like that, there'll be overlapping criminal issues. And because I'm on a regional team, the Metropolitan Law Enforcement Council, where we ring basically from Ashland all the way down to Plymouth, ringing Boston, there's too many overlapping jurisdictions, so I choose not to practice at this time. I like to say I use my attorneyness for the forces of good.
Okay. We also should take time to thank you. You are a veteran of as far as military.
Yes.
Correct?
I'm a retired gunnery sergeant of Marines.
You can hear that in your voice as well.
Yes. I've been told that I need to not do the gunnery sergeant of Marines voice because it scares voters, especially if I knife hand somebody.
Talk to us about deciding to run for sheriff. What was it that made you decide to get out and campaign? Because you're one guy who's, when you get out and campaign, you get out and campaign. You remind me of State Senator Mike Brady. You're a guy who knows how to show up at events. It's almost like you're everywhere. I kind of am doing an investigation. I think you might be cloned.
I wish I could clone myself. And being compared to Mike Brady is something that flatters me. Mike's a hardworking guy, and if you're anywhere around Brockton, you see Mike everywhere.
Everywhere.
So to be compared to him is actually flattering. So. As I went around the county, I've been actively involved in county politics for the last few years. And I went around the county and I talked to a lot of the voters. And when I explained to them that I'm a retired gunnery sergeant of Marines, that I have 23 years of police and corrections experience, and that when I came back from Iraq in 2006, the VA sent me to law school where I became an attorney. Like I said, I don't actively practice, but I like to be the best police officer that I can be, and being an attorney helps me do that. And when people hear all those qualifications, they said, "Why aren't you running for sheriff?" And I thought about it for a while, and I said, they're right. A while back, I wasn't quite ready to give up my career. I'm on the Metropolitan Law Enforcement Council SWAT team, and I'm in charge of the motorcycles at the Plymouth Police Department. So if you can play SWAT guy and ride motorcycles for a living, life's good. So I wasn't really ready to leave all that. I really enjoy being a police officer. I get to help a lot of people, especially with the tragedy of the opiate epidemic that's upon us. I get to go out and help family members get their loved ones into treatment, get them to use the Section 35 process to explain all the avenues they have to help get treatment. I actually had my first Narcan save a couple weeks ago.
What was that like?
I've been on scene where Narcan's been used hundreds of times, all the way back to when it was the injectable kind, and you used to wait for the paramedics to show up and they'd inject them with Narcan. Nowadays, we all carry Narcan. We have the nasal Narcan, where it's a mister and you spray it up the nose and they inhale it. Like I said, I've been on scene and I've seen it used 100 times, but this time I was the first guy there. I was the closest person. I ran out, I grabbed my Narcan kit, I grabbed the first aid kit with the ambu bag, and we went over, and there's a non-responsive female. And the trick to Narcan is you got to remember that when you take it apart, there's a little purple stopper that has to come off. So put it together right.
Right.
So I got it all together, and we gave her half a vial up one nostril. That didn't do anything, so we switched to the other nostril and gave her the other half of the vial, and then she started to come out of it, and a little sternum rub brought her the rest of the way out. And then luckily the ambulance pulled up, and we, because people get sick after they get Narcan when they come back out, they don't realize that they start vomiting and stuff. Right. So we were able to get her in the ambulance and get her the treatment she needed. And where I work, they have a good follow-up program. So, like I said, she's got the care she needed, and it wasn't really anything I thought of. The funny thing is, I was on Marshfield Public Access Cable later that day. It was like a super busy day, and I was on Bob Parkis's show. And
Bob Parkis.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And,
he's a very good guy, and he's a gentleman who I have a chance to talk to from time to time.
Yeah.
Who he looks at. That's an excellent show that you were on.
Yeah, and I didn't think anything of it because it was just another day at work for me. I mean, we have so many overdoses that we deal with, you know what I mean, and it just becomes routine for us. But Bob was like, wow, you saved a life, and I didn't really think about it like that.
You did. You saved a life.
To me, it was just business. You know what I mean? It was just work. It was just another day of being a police officer,
like a reflex,
going out and helping. You know what I mean? But like I said, it was something that I hadn't experienced before, as far as being the person that gives the Narcan and such. Like I said, I've been on scene, but it was good. It was we help somebody, they get better, they get in treatment. So that's what we're supposed to do.
Talk about the importance of the Sheriff's Department, and when we're talking about this crisis that we're going through, the epidemic, when we talk about drug addiction, do you feel that this county's Sheriff's Department does all that it can do, or is there something that you would like to add if you're elected?
I think they're doing a lot. And I won't take any credit away from. There's a lot of people at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, hardworking people, especially in the programs. I will, as sheriff, will really increase the amount of programs. Right now, what they're doing is they're using one of the empty units as a Section 35 unit. So if somebody is civilly committed for treatment, they're inside. Yep. And any bed is a good bed. When there's no beds, that's that's
problem.
Bad. That's a problem. So any bed is a good bed. I personally don't think that they should be inside the jail with the inmates, because that's a person who needs medical treatment. They're not an inmate. And when they're inside the institution, they have to be treated in a certain way for security purposes. I would actually seek to create an on-site center for the Section 35s. There's also some talk around the Department of Correction that the forestry camp, MCI Plymouth, might close. And if it did close, I would move to take that over, because that's set up more of a low security, bunk bed-ish type environment that would be more conducive to the Section 35s. And like I said, any bed's a good bed, but I really don't think they should be treated like inmates. I think that they, if we could create a on-site facility for them, especially for women. You know how hard it is to find a bed for a woman who needs treatment for addiction?
It's very hard.
If you've ever seen the mobile home trailers, the double wide trailers, those go up pretty quick. And what's to say that we couldn't, with state funding, because there's a lot of funding out there right now for the opiate crisis, get a half a dozen or so mobile home trailers, put cyclone fence around it, and create a treatment center for women. It would be almost plug and play. And to me, it's a no-brainer. But those are like some of the innovative ideas that I want to bring down to Plymouth County, to help out with the opiate epidemic. A couple other programs that I've looked at that are really good, and I wish I could claim credit for this idea, but it was actually the Norfolk County Sheriff's idea. Mike Bellotti is another great guy. They were rescuing dogs from shelters and training them as drug dogs. And what I seek to do is to rescue, primarily labs, but you can use other dogs as well. Train them as drug dogs, and then inside of the facility, have 2 corrections officers with narcotics detection canines each shift to make sure that no contraband comes into the facility. There's drugs getting into the facility, and most people don't know about it unless you know what's going on down there, like I do.
Can that actually be stopped, though? I mean, is there always going to be a leaky faucet, as you would say, that there would be somebody who is finding ways to, whether it's somebody who works for the sheriff's department or just someone who is clever enough to be able to get it in during conjugal visits?
If they're coming from court and they know they're going to be committed, sometimes they'll tuck, and it's one of those things that you have to do everything you can do to stop the introduction of drugs into the facility. Right. And my plan is 2 narcotics detection canines per shift in the facility. Not out driving around, not out in cruisers, but in the facility itself to interdict that. And that was the Norfolk County model. It's not really, again, not my idea. I have a lot of great ideas, but I like to steal other people's ideas that work, because if it works and it's not broken, why fix it?
Right.
So that's one of the things that I want to do, is rescue dogs and use them in the facility to interdict drugs coming into the facility. But I also want to train additional dogs to provide to the police departments of the county at no cost. So that way the individual police departments can be assisted in their fight against the opiate epidemic. And like I said, so a lot of departments, if I said, hey, do you want a free drug sniffing dog? I mean, it's hard to say no to.
Okay. What is recidivism? What is that word, and what does it mean to the common person who is not serving time or somebody who has been incarcerated?
It's a big word that, a lot of people don't know what recidivism means.
Right.
And it just simply means that, somebody who's committed a transgression, they've been sentenced to serve a sentence at the House of Correction or in the state prison, and when they get back out, they haven't been rehabilitated, so they continue to offend. Those of us who worked as corrections officers, we call it life on the installment plan. Where they do 2.5 years, they get out for a little while, they do something else, they come back in for a couple of years, and it's a revolving door system of justice. Whereas, these people aren't breaking the cycle, they're just continuing to commit crimes and continuing to be sentenced to serve time. And there's, some people. When I worked at the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department, there were people that, that was their life, and they knew that they'd go out for a little while and they'd come back, and they needed the structure. And a lot of them, that's why they came back, is because they needed the structure that kept them going every day. And there were other people that kept coming back for different reasons. They just, they weren't being rehabilitated. And the one thing that most people don't look at, when they look at the people who are incarcerated, we automatically paint them as bad people. And there are truly bad people out there, and I've seen evil in this world, and I've fought against it. I fought against it in Iraq. I've seen pure evil here as a police officer. But most of the people that are sentenced to the House of Correction are sentenced for 2.5 years or less, and they're not serving a big sentence. It's a minor transgression that they've been sentenced for. And while you have them as a bad pun captive audience,
yep,
we need to do everything we can to set them up for success. Realistic job training. If you looked at Sheriff Tompkins in Suffolk County, he said, let's look at the jobs that these people can get, because they've served time, there's a little bit of a stigma. So realistically, what type of a job could they get? So Sheriff Tompkins went out and bought a dozen sewing machines, and he's teaching them how to be tailors. Because again, it's a job that you don't really need a Corey to fix people's clothes.
Right. It's a skill set.
It's a skill set. It's a trade.
Yep.
He's also teaching construction, where they're mocking up walls and learning how to square and frame and all that other stuff. Suffolk County's doing a lot of good stuff. They're really on the cutting edge of this. One of the things that I want to do, and like if you're old like us, you remember back when they used to wheel the computer card into class?
Yeah.
They had the old Commodore 64s, everything in DOS.
Yeah, the binary code 010. Yeah.
Well, back then, if they used to wheel the cart full of computers into class, and then you'd have your computer class. So why can't we do that in the units down at the Plymouth County House of Correction? Why can't we buy a bunch of tablets with keyboards and have basic computer classes for these people? Teach them how to use a Word document. Teach them how to use an Excel spreadsheet. Teach them how to make a LinkedIn profile. So, because the world goes on LinkedIn, and that's how you find jobs. And give these people the skills that they need, so that if they can move beyond the tailors and barbers and construction, if they can move into the Staples Copy Center as an entry-level office position and learn office stuff, or move into the newsroom at one of the wicked locals, and just work their way up. That's one of the things that the people forget, is everybody needs hope. And Dr. Schran, I give Dr. Schran props every time I talk. Dr. Schran from Marshfield has an awesome book about inner self-worth.
We've had him here. Actually, I interviewed him.
Yep.
And he also doubles as Joe from Zoom, if you didn't know that already. He will tell you that. But he's a great guy. Drug Story Theater, yes, also an author as well. You're correct.
And one of the things that people don't realize is that the problem with addiction is an onion.
Yep.
And when you start peeling layers back, the top layer is the addiction. There's a layer of they commit crimes to facilitate addiction. But then you're going to find a mental health layer. And as you peel all these layers back, eventually you're going to get down to why did they begin to use drugs in the first place?
Exactly.
Why did they commit these crimes and transgress against society? And a lot of it will come to inner self-worth issues. So you have to peel all those layers back to get to what the root problem is, what the root cause is. And while you have that bad pun, captive audience, you should do everything you can to not only set them up for basic computer skills, or a trade that they can use when they get out, but try and figure out why they transgressed against society to begin with and why they're incarcerated. And if we can work on that through intensive counseling, intensive mental health screening, and help them when they come out, they won't commit more crimes, they won't get wrapped in the cycle of recidivism, and they won't do life on an installment
Basically
plan.
won't be institutionalized, is what you're saying. Any of these programs, any of these ideas, would this come at an additional cost? Is this a matter of just shifting personnel to be able to accomplish some of these goals?
There's plenty of people out there that want to help. And as I go along the campaign trail, there's retired teachers who say, Scott, I'd love to come down and volunteer. So there's plenty of volunteers out there. Again, I haven't bought a tablet recently, so I don't think they're very expensive, but there is some cost. But there's a lot of grants out there.
Maybe refurbished?
Refurbished. Like I said, there's a lot of grants out there. So you go out and you seek out the grants to buy the equipment, and you have to set the whole program up before you put it into place. Because you can't just throw computers at people and expect them to do the right thing with them. And and there's a lot of things that we can do with them. And one of the problems they're having down there is people forget that they need a support network. They need contact with their family members. And the phone system down there is run by a private company that charges exorbitant rates. So if you have all these people in their computer class and they're doing well, maybe give them a Skype phone call and say, hey, look, successfully complete this, and at the end of it, we'll let you teach you how to use Skype, and you can call a family member and say hi to your family and friends for 5 minutes, and that's the carrot you put out there. It can't always be the stick. There has to be incentive for these people. And so if you know,
reward, so to speak.
If you know that, hey, if I complete, this 40-hour class on introduction to computers, I'm going to get to see my, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, right, for 5 minutes. That's the carrot. And that would incentivize them to actually participate in the program and learn along the way.
You've yet to square off with the incumbent. What do you feel are going to be the issues in this race? Are there issues, or is it a matter of who has the better ideas moving forward for the next 6 years?
There is a ton of issues out there right now. We can go back and forth about the opiate epidemic and who has better ideas and all that other stuff. But there's some significant issues down there.
Okay.
And some of it is when Joe came in, he came in as a reformer. And he said he was going to change a lot of things, and he pointed a lot of fingers at Joe McDonough. But unfortunately, 12 years later, he's done all the same things, whether it's employee campaign contributions, whether it's putting friends and relatives into pick positions, or that type of those issues that are going on. Who's getting promoted. Simply the fact of taking 90% of your campaign contributions from employees is it legal? Maybe, but is it ethical and moral? At the end of the day, what Charlie Lincoln did was legal, but nobody saw that as ethical and moral or palatable to the voters.
And for folks who don't know who Charlie Lincoln is, if you can give a brief, I know who Charlie Lincoln is because I'm a news guy, but if you could give just a brief
Charlie
breakdown
Lincoln was the director of security under Sheriff McDonough. He was also a Brockton police lieutenant. And while there was no rule against it, he was a Brockton police lieutenant at night, and during the day he worked at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department.
Found a loophole.
And there was a loophole. But what happened was he doubled up in the county pension system, because both were in the county pension system, and the voters and the public in general found that to be abhorrent.
Yeah. It was an outcry.
Yes. Was what he did legal? Yes.
At the time it was.
At the time it was. Since then there's been pension reforms. But there was a public outcry. And that was one of the big campaign issues that Joe McDonald used against Joe McDonough. And in this time frame right now, I think we've counted up to 14 960s. And what you can do is you can retire from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and you can still work 960 hours for the Commonwealth or a municipality without it negatively affecting your pension. And right now, there's somewhere around 14 people that are exploiting the 960 loophole. And the biggest one is the special sheriff, who retired one day, retired on Friday at 80% of his salary, and came back Monday as a 960 consultant. And basically, in effect, gave himself a $20,000 a year pay raise because he's collecting the $85,000 pension, and he's making another $42,000 according to open checkbook as a consultant when he was at 108 when he left. So 85 and 42 is the math is it's about $20,000 a year pay raise. And not only that he had 2 take-home cars. So why does a part-time employee have a take-home car? I don't know. He definitely shouldn't have 2. But these are issues that Joe McDonald campaigned against. And to allow them to not only continue, but to be 100-fold worse, that's a big problem. Those are some issues that we're going to have to talk about in this campaign.
What do you do to not to be of the same example? How do you, if you are elected, try to avoid nepotism and make sure that what's fair for one employee is fair for the rest of the employees? And as far as you also mentioned, taking contributions from your employees, how do you handle that?
But it's very simple. Is you don't. I know there's plenty of sheriffs out there that don't take money from their employees. If you say 5 years from now I ran a road race and an employee wanted to sign up for it and it was a campaign function, that's one thing. But having them contribute, hundreds and thousands of dollars, and like I said, we'll be talking about that pretty soon. There's people down there that have contributed $11,000 to his campaign.
Over a short amount of time, or over the past 12 years? Over the past 12 years.
But, but either way, $11,000 is a lot of money.
I have to ask this to be fair. What if it's somebody that you let's say, and now myself, I don't contribute to anybody's campaign, but what if there was somebody I worked for that was running and I wanted to give him money? Do you think that's something that should be shunned upon, no matter what, no matter if it's somebody who there's a conflict?
I think the problem is when I went to law school and we had a class on ethics, and basically the rule is if it looks bad, don't do it.
Okay. And
unfortunately, it's like, granted, there's always going to be some small overlapping things, like I am actually having a motorcycle run, and as a campaign function, I'm having a motorcycle run August 27th out of the Black Raspberry. So say some corrections officers who own motorcycles wanted to come on the run, and it's a $20 fee. That's kind of a nominal thing. You know what I mean? So if they came and they signed up, for the $20, I get that. But when not just one employee, but a host of employees have contributed $10,000 each between them and their family members, even if it's over the course of 10, 12 years, that looks bad. And that's, again, we go back to Charlie Lincoln. Was what Charlie did legal? He was fined $1 at the end of the day.
There were attempts. I know that there were attempts by the government to mail fraud and stuff like that.
Because he mailed the application in for all that other stuff, and at the end of the day, it all fell apart.
Right.
So, but the question is the fact that it all fell apart,
ethics.
Does that make it right?
Ethics.
You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to is the public doesn't like certain things. And you can stand there and say all day long, just because he contributed $10,000 isn't why he got this job, but it looks bad. And the way to do it so it doesn't look bad is don't do it.
We got a couple of minutes left here. Is there any issue or anything that we haven't talked about, but you feel is kind of important to talk about while we have you here in front of the cameras?
Well, one of the big things, and what's been resonating, a lot is I believe that there's plenty of talent down in the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, that these people need the opportunity to grow. And it's like a flower. If you water the flower and give it room to grow, it'll flourish. And there's a lot of talent that's stifled down there. And that's one of the things that I want to look at. I want to look to the employees that are already there to help me make that place as best as it can be. And there's a lot of people that, like I said, that just need that extra, hey, do you have a good idea? What's the problem and what's the solution? And not only you bring the employees in, but talk to the inmates. You know what I mean? They're the ones that are living there. And I'm not saying, it's one of those things where they're going to get to decide everything. But when you're talking to the COs, you talk to the inmates as well, because if maybe they have an idea that could incentivize people to participate in programs, or give them a Disney movie on Fridays, if everybody in the unit behaves all week. I mean, there's different things that you have to talk to everybody and get everybody on the same sheet, and get that group effort moving forward. And I truly believe that with my qualifications as a retired gunnery sergeant of Marines with 23 years of police and corrections experience as an attorney, having every day gone out and fight the opiate epidemic and fight the battle against domestic violence, that I've learned it from the ground floor up. When I got out of the Marines the first time, I was a corrections officer in South Bay. So I learned it from walking the tiers. And I truly believe that those experiences are going to help me make the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department the best it can be to help people break the cycle of recidivism, to help fight the opiate epidemic, and to help when these people are remanded to your care and custody, to give them back better than we got them.
We get less than 3 minutes left, which means we've really burned through our time. This is your opportunity to look into the camera and tell folks how they can find out more information about you in your campaign, seeing that we've got much less than 100 days left until the big election in November.
13 weeks.
Yeah.
I'd ask that you go find us on Facebook, Scott M. Vecchi for Plymouth County Sheriff 2016. Like the Facebook page. We broke 1,500 the other day. I think we're 1,530 something. So find us on Facebook. All the videos, all the information about me is there. Go to my website, voteforvecchi.org. Or if you can't find it, Google Scott Vecchi and see what pops up. The Facebook page pops up, the website pops up. There's a lot of information about me, a lot that I'd like to share with the voters, but in our limited amount of time, I'm not able to get into everything. And I just like to say that I'm Scott Vecchi, I'm running for Plymouth County Sheriff, and I'm asking for your vote.
And if folks want to find out, follow you as far as events, to which ones you're going to be going to, you keep your website up and current.
The website's up and the Facebook page is up, and again we do have the motorcycle run coming up on August 27th. I don't know when this show's going to air, but
maybe before then. But it'll also run well past that as well. So folks want to keep an eye on it.
And they'll be on the Facebook page. I like Facebook events because once you click on that you're interested, it keeps reminding you in your Google Calendar. So I try to put all of my events up on it, and we're getting close. And the September primary is going to be upon us before you know it.
Yep.
And then we're gonna be running. And like you said, I've already hit the ground running. I hit the ground running last September. And
still going.
I haven't slowed down since. It's a big sprint to the end.
Thank you for coming in, and we wish you the best of luck. And I'm sure we're going to hear from you again somewhere, somehow, for some reason.
I'm sure you will.
Whether it's because you're successful or just because you're stopping by to say hi. And we want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, it's your vote that makes a difference. We're going to do our best here at Crosstalk to bring in the candidates who are running for office, whether they're first-time candidates or incumbents, regardless. Thank you for joining us here at Crosstalk. Until next time, have a great day.